Hey y'all, Scott here, and welcome to New Franchise Watch, where we find new IPs so you don't have to. Today we're going to try and lure a new IP by using two of its favorite things, no audience and a shoestring budget. Fuck, there it is! Had to fight to wrangle this sucker up a bit, but lo and behold, the elusive ARMS. You see, it's elusive because nobody bought it. Ooh. It feels like Nintendo is taking a page straight out of Splatoon's book with the recent release of ARMS. These two franchises have so much in common. They're two colorful new IPs made in-house by Nintendo within a little over 2 years of each other. Both are very multiplayer focused, both have a very similar content release method, both have their own made-up language, and both are even games you can play. So I thought it'd be interesting to pit both of these games against each other and see which one I prefer. I know they're both in two completely different genres, so the categories here are going to be pretty broad. We have creativity. These games are both pretty creative, both in terms of their gameplay and style. Presentation, the design, graphics, sound, the whole 9 and or 3 yards. Replay value, a key attribute to any multiplayer game. This will be about which game encourages you and is more fun to keep coming back. Amount of content, similar to replay value, but here we're talking how much there is to do in the base game and what was and will be added to the games later on. And gameplay, they sure are games. I'm going to be pitting ARMS against the first Splatoon at launch, as they were both the first in their respective franchises, which means for this battle, we're going to be taking into consideration what Splatoon was like on day one, as it's only fair. Basically, which game had the best introduction to the masses. Let me preface this battle by saying I, at the very least, like both of these games and think they can both be a great deal of fun. This is just pitting them both against each other as they follow very similar structures. ARMS obviously took some inspiration from Splatoon, so I want to figure out what each game can learn from each other for the better. Both of these games bring a twist to a well-established genre. ARMS is a fighting game with extendable arms, and Splatoon is a third-person shooter that rewards covering turf more so than taking down opponents. In my opinion, Splatoon is more creative with its gameplay concept. ARMS feels like a different kind of fighting game with its own style and tactics, while Splatoon is unlike any other shooter out there. ARMS is unique, but Splatoon is in its own class. When you think about what the mechanics of Splatoon are and relate those to its world and sea life theme, it all clicks and you get to appreciate just how creative the game designers are. Like, this game only makes sense with the characters being Inklings. Now, where ARMS really strives in creativity is with its character designs. These guys have amazing designs, and with every new character revealed, they keep on surprising me with how much they can do with ARMS' concept of fighters with extendable arms. I love the Inklings designs, and the side characters are great too, but ARMS just continues to impress me with how creative the designs can be. However, gameplay reigns supreme here, and the more I think about Splatoon's gameplay, I can't not give the creativity category to Splatoon. Both of these games look and sound excellent. I already touched on the design for both, and all you have to know is they're both well-designed games and technically look really sharp, colorful, and fantastic. Splatoon feels more like a world though. That's obviously because you can walk around, explore the plaza, and appreciate all the minute details, where with ARMS, you're limited to just select arenas to get a taste of what the world is like. I'm not going to dock ARMS for this though, as it's a fighting game and it makes sense that this is the case. ARMS' music is really unique for a Nintendo game. There's a consistent use of chanting and vocals basically as instruments in the soundtrack. It sounds really cool and different for a Nintendo game. They also reuse the same melody in so many different ways, which feels like a total callback to Super Mario World where they did the same thing. I think that's really cool, and it doesn't get old for me because each track in the game has its own style to it. Splatoon's music is still really good as it has its own vibe. Most of the multiplayer tracks are rock, while other tracks in the game have a weird, wacky feel to them that really works for the game. But at the end of the day, while I love the art design and graphical quality of both games equally, I'd rather listen to ARMS' soundtrack. Splatoon's OST is some neat shit, but ARMS is just so good. Both ARMS and Splatoon launched with minimal content, but gradually received more via free updates. You see, I'm fine with this content delivery method. My problem with it is Nintendo makes this an excuse to under-deliver with games at launch, especially with ARMS. ARMS has the Grand Prix, which is just multiple versus fights in a row, Versus, which is just your own custom matches with either computers or friends, and then online matches, which is versus but against people online. And that's it. To me, the amount of content in ARMS is really a turn-off. You see, I'm not really all too interested in playing ARMS competitively, same with Splatoon by the way. I just wanted to play for fun, but the game lacks things for me to do that would encourage me to play it more often or try to get better at it. I feel like they engineered this game more so for competitive players who only care about online and versus matches. I'm not knocking people who play more competitively, it's just for somebody like me, there's not a lot here. Why not have a challenge mode, story mode, mission mode, unlockable characters or stages? Look at Smash Brothers for Wii U, they could have just had the standard Smash mode and online, with maybe classic mode to round it out, but you have trophies, all-star mode, stage builder, custom moves, smash tour, a wall of challenges to conquer, and a fair amount of unlockables. Not all of this content may be a home run, but it's something to do in the game, something to feel like you're accomplishing something to keep more casual players coming back to the game and possibly encourage them to become more competitive. ARMS is just the bare minimum, and it's not something that can be solved with the updates they have slated to appear. They just say characters, stages, and more ARM types are coming, which the amount of those in the base game isn't the problem, it's the lack of things to do. I see people compare ARMS to the original Smash Brothers, as they're both the first games in their series, and ARMS has a similar amount of fighters, stages, and modes at launch. The problem with this comparison is that Smash Brothers is 18 years old. It's 2017. I kind of expect a bit more, and I get it. A lot of ARMS' content will be released for free later down the line, but I might not care at all by then, and I'm already not really caring all too much now. Splatoon may have also had a severe lack of content, but I think it fared better than ARMS does. The single player is actually vastly different from the multiplayer, and while short, it's still a fun time. And Splatoon's focus on online multiplayer makes a lot more sense. The way Splatoon is set up makes way more sense to be heavily online based in comparison to ARMS. ARMS' main focus seems to be the online multiplayer, and while I want online in a game like ARMS, it just doesn't feel like a game that lives or dies based off of it like Splatoon does. And the thing is, Splatoon's main content problem was the lack of maps and modes, and they kept adding to it throughout its life. ARMS' main problem to me was the lack of things to do other than versus matches, and instead of remedying that, they're just adding more characters and stages. I just feel like Splatoon is way more proficient in the content category than ARMS is. Both of these games offer a fair amount of replay value. ARMS more so offers it if you're interested in getting better and better at the game, or just have a few friends who all enjoy playing the multiplayer the game has to offer. However, Splatoon is just inherently more addictive and fun to replay than ARMS is in my opinion. When you win in either game, it feels fantastic, but when I lose in ARMS, it is devastating. When I lose in Splatoon, I know that it's a team effort and it wasn't entirely my fault, which encourages me to play more and more and get better. In terms of single player replayability, the campaign in Splatoon has collectibles. ARMS' single player just has like 30 gallons of difficulties. I never really feel like replaying through either single player campaign, but I'd take Splatoon's collectibles. Let's get down to the fundamentals here. Which game do I find most fun? Splatoon is all about the 4-on-4 online multiplayer, and it can be really fun and addictive. The game gives you more money each match, which then encourages you to go to the shops and buy new gear like clothing or weapons to step your game up. There's also various different modes to play online, such as Rainmaker and Splat Zones, but those were added after launch, and besides, I mainly stick to Turf War. If you get bored of the multiplayer, you can take the single player on, which is a fun distraction from online. It's not the grandest of single player campaigns, but it can be fun, and like I said, a nice distraction. ARMS is mainly about the one-on-one multiplayer, which is a lot of fun, but it just lacks things to do other than versus matches. There's different kinds of versus matches, like hoops and v-ball. I like v-ball more so than others, but it's still not the most fun in the world, and I think hoops is way lamer than others think. Like, all you do is grab your opponent, and that's it. You don't have a health bar, just grab your opponent. The game does the rest in terms of throwing them into the hoop, so it just ends up feeling like a regular match where grabbing is your only form of offense. ARMS is a game where you truly have to be pretty good at it to fully enjoy, but there's not enough single-player content here for me to want to train on or just play and start to get the hang of things. It's just play some matches until you get better. But for a while there, you're just gonna get your ass kicked online before you make any progress, and it's just such a new fighting game that it's hard to tell what should have been done in a specific instance if you get one-upped by your opponent. I'm not saying boo-hoo, it's too hard for me. I'm saying I want to do more in the game rather than just versus matches. Then that would keep me coming back to the game more often, and I'd find myself getting better at the game. Like in Smash Brothers, I blew it first, but I kept coming back so I could get more trophies and unlock all the characters and stages and take on the challenge wall, and that helped me learn the game more. ARMS has none of this, and thus makes it really hard for me to want to keep coming back or try to get better at the game. It's a fun game that just needs more incentives for players to return to it. I think Splatoon gets the win for this one. So Splatoon wins the battle of new IPs, and I want to reiterate that I really like ARMS and think it has loads of potential. It's just, it doesn't have a lot of content to encourage me to keep coming back. Like, I'll feel like playing ARMS and then I'll start, and like within 30 minutes I'll stop playing and not pick it up for like a week or longer. It just needs more things to do other than versus matches, and I think that'll give the game far more variety and incentive for me to come back. To wrap things up, I might as well talk a bit about my first impressions of Splatoon 2. It's Splatoon, so it's a fun time. I had worries going into it that would be too similar to Splatoon 1, as the trailers leading up to the game gave me little reason to believe otherwise. Getting my hands on the game, it's hard to explain. It still feels very similar to Splatoon 1, yet it feels different enough, but that's probably because it's on a new console. I still think it could have used a second big new mode like Salmon Run or something to make the multiplayer feel a bit different, because there's basically no differences between Turf War and Splatoon 1 and Splatoon 2. The single player is solid enough, it's still relatively short, but you're gonna buy Splatoon for its multiplayer, and the single player does its job. Salmon Run is really fun, I really enjoyed that mode, and this game looks phenomenal. Everything is so smooth and colorful, it's a joy to look at. With all that being said, I'm really bummed the developers didn't really address almost any of the complaints regarding the original game. You still have to sit through the intro telling you what stages are available every time you turn on the game, and on top of that, yeah, there's still only 2 stages to play online every 2 hours. It's a step up from the 4-hour wait from the original, but my god, why not at least up the stage count to 3 stages per 2 hours? I get they do it as a competitive and strategic thing, but man, it makes the multiplayer boring for prolonged periods of time. And Salmon Run is only available at specific times. I get that the developers want Splatoon to feel like a lived-in world, and I love it, but this takes things too far, saying that Grisco Industries from Salmon Run aren't hiring now. But yeah, overall, it's Splatoon again, which means it's really fun and a solid game, but I wish they threw more new stuff in there. Because to me, it doesn't really feel like Splatoon 2, but instead just Splatoon for the Switch. Splatoon has a ton of potential to grow as a gameplay concept, and Splatoon 2 doesn't really feel like it expanded upon the original. It simply feels like more of the original. Before we get out of here, I'm feeling queasy in the most negative way possible. Was that something I said? You see, it's elusive because nobody bought it. Ooh. Huh. Well, before anybody gets angry over that comment, here's my official response. Just kidding!